guys to come in a little bit. And then when I see Kaitlyn, I will bring her on. Welcome to our week, whatever it is, of uh, Bullying Prevention Month. Our guest today is Kaitlyn Black. She's been with us for a while. I think I see her, so let me grab her. Hold on one second. Yep.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Too bad. I feel like I'm too low. Hold on. There we go.
Let me know if I need to put my earbuds in if the sound's bad.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. It sounds
Okay.
good.
All right.
Make sure that do you see like my whole am I like cut off?
You are like you're about right here.
Okay. I'm gonna have to put this up a little bit more. I'm in a different room. I do these in different rooms all over the house. So
Hey, you gotta keep it interesting somehow.
this is what happens, and then I go into a room that I'm not used to being in. Like it's all weird. So it's been a while. How are you?
I'm as good as can be expected. How are you?
Same.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's ebbs and flows. I don't really know. I think that like all of us ask this question on a regular basis to each other, and we're just like, I don't, you know.
Yeah. It's it's a very weird time where you're like, how are you doing? And you're like, well, would you really like to sit down and know? Because I'm gonna need an hour of your time.
Yeah, it's
So,
like now during a pandemic is when you say how are you, it's like really how are you, and like you get a real answer now.
yeah.
You don't get like I'm good, I'm fine, even when you're not. Now it's like a real answer of everybody just like pouring out their soul when somebody asks them how they are.
Our communication skills as human beings have increased, I think, due to this pandemic.
I always say, don't ask how you are. Don't ask people how are they if you don't want a real answer.
True.
Because you're gonna get a real answer. But
Yeah.
I've always asked genuinely when I ask somebody how they are. I just like if they want to say it for an hour, I'm totally fine with it. So I always genuinely usually mean when I say how are you. You know, I've never liked when people. It's like it's become a phrase with like just like yo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to ask each other more. I think like with that conversation being how, I think that's an important question to ask people.
Yeah, absolutely. With not just with the pandemic going on right now, but you know, with the race tensions and LGBTQ issues right now. I mean, it's really important that one people feel heard, and that you are empathetic and compassionate to their stories.
Absolutely. Now, you know, you've been with Bullies Keep Out for a while, probably from like the beginning. We just haven't done anything in a while, but um, I know we did like I think we did a little interview like years ago,
Yeah,
and
it was just kind of like
we were,
via phone.
yeah, we were just starting to do some things, and then schedules got crazy, and then it's just things all over the place, and you know, so I know that we've talked about issues in the past and your thoughts on it, but let's like reiterate some of that about your feelings on it if you have a story of your own to share. Only because I kind of feel like it's been a while. So, some people who back then might have read that or listened to it, that was a while ago. So like, you might feel differently. Might have some new insights. So, and if I recall, I think you had a little bit of a story, whether it was online or offline. I don't recall, but I'll let you tell it.
Sure. I mean, mainly when I was in middle school, I went to like a parochial co-ed school, and my grandma owned a dance studio, so I was a dancer. I was into dancing and musical theater and singing, and I went to a very sports oriented school, and so kind of right off the bat, I was a little bit of I don't want to say ugly duckling because that's not the proper term, but I was more of an outsider. And I didn't play sports because dance was all year round. And then my mom, who was also a dance teacher, would come in and help choreograph for like some of the musicals. And, you know, that was in the kind of just after the Jane Fonda era. So it was like leotards and leg warmers and tights. And that's what my mom was showing up at school in. And then kind of in an authoritarian position of, you know, telling kids what to do. So I got, I don't want to say like picked on a lot, but I didn't have a lot of friends. There was definitely a time where we would have to change for gym class. And this is like something that I'll always remember, is that one time when I went to change back into my uniform, they had hid my uniform in the rafters of the ceiling. And so I was late to my next class. And it was little things like that it got to the point where I didn't have good skin. So I was, you know, bullied about that, and probably wearing too much makeup to try to cover it up. And there came a point in 7th grade that I actually, I left at recess, and my home was close enough that I could walk to it. And, you know, I didn't tell anybody. It was just kind of one of those spontaneous things where I was like, I don't have to deal with this anymore. I don't have to take it. I'm going home, you know, screw it.
Right.
And of course, my mom and dad were called, the priest of the school was called, and I received a 3-day in-school suspension for that, even after I said all of the things that had been happening, you know, just like nasty notes. I received a couple of like nasty voicemails that my parents actually heard, for no real reason, just kind of just being different, and people
Right.
not understanding, you know, that theater and dance was, you know, a valuable and wonderful occupation and hobby. And so I switched schools after 7th grade because I didn't want to have to deal with that. And it really probably wasn't, and then I became such a people pleaser. I like, from that moment on, it was definitely just, you know, try to make people laugh, try to fit in, you know, follow the leader kind of a thing. And it wasn't until I got to college and got into a musical theater group that I was like, oh, okay, here are people that, you know, are not non-judgmental, competition oriented, but, you know, non-judgmental. And so that was during school. It was, you know, I never had a lot of friends, and the friends that I had in high school I'm still friends with 20 years later, which is 2. And that's fine. You know, you're not judged by how many people are in your group. It's, you know,
it's quality over quantity. I always say that.
Absolutely. And then there was a time when I was still on Twitter, even though I still apparently have a handle on Twitter. I haven't been on there for like 5 years. I called for common sense gun laws after the San Bernardino shooting. And I was definitely quick on the trigger before I learned the entire story, but I was just kind of so fed up with the fact that, you know, after school shooting and university shooting and movie theater shooting, that we don't want to protect the children. You know, I always go back to the stance of not everybody's going to wear a seatbelt, not everybody's going to drive sober, but we still make those laws and keep them in place so that we can help hold people accountable. And I feel the same. I have nothing against the Second Amendment.
Right.
I'm you know, for common sense gun legislature and registering your gun like you would a car. And I received just heinous backlash. I mean, people told me to leave the country. They told me to kill myself.
Wow.
They said they would never watch my show again.
That sounds like Twitter.
Yeah. You know, it's just, you know, everybody's able to hide behind a screen and vent, and they don't see the repercussions on the other side of what that does. It's like a mess. I just had no idea that there was so much hatred, you know, just for wanting safety for, our community, for our children, for, it was really baffling. And that's when I was like, I tried to stay on Twitter for a little while, and I actually tried to reach out to like gun advocates and say, okay, what are certain things that you would be willing to talk about legislatively? Like, what could we do to ensure more safety and precautions? And, and I tried for a while, and I was still getting a lot of blowback. And so I was like, it's not worth my mental and emotional health to try to keep doing that. So those are the, I would say, the two major things when it comes to bullying. But, I'm also in an industry where you're judged on your height, your body weight, your hair color, your ethnicity, which I totally own my white privilege, and the fact that, like I've been privileged to have gone in for many different types of roles versus some of my friends who are people of color that have been pigeonholed. So, everybody deals with challenges all the time, every day. Your reality is your reality. And, you can't take away anybody's sense of being upset or feeling vulnerable, or, it's not a compare contrast situation. But, being in the field that I am, it's definitely, you have to have a thick skin, and you have to have a good support group around you to kind of keep going.
Yeah, no, you should see Twitter now.
I don't want to. Pass. I'm already self-medicating with alcohol. I'd go too far.
I mean, look, I have been on Twitter for years. I have never seen it as toxic and dumpster fire as it is now. I barely go on it because there is so much like hate and just people going after each other's throats and hypocrisy, bullying, and it's just I just like, that's just my favorite. Like, I just go on there for like 5 minutes and I already want to throw my phone across like an ocean. I mean, I know a lot of people.
Shout out Golden Flashes. I just saw Ken State.
Twitter is ridiculous. It's mean. Yeah, it very much is. And there were lots of people. I was always talking about comments because people don't understand. Like, just a quick sidestep. Gun control doesn't mean people don't believe in the Second Amendment, and they're not saying responsible people can't own guns the right way. And that's what they get confused about. And people start freaking out, yelling at people that are common sense gun law or control like advocates. And it's like, but that's not what they're saying.
Right.
Like, people don't listen anymore. It's more about talking, and people just jump down your throat. And that's one of the problems with social media and in general, just with life. Even when people are talking, I find like they just right away, something triggers them and they just go off, and it's like, okay, but are you listening? Because that's not anything what anybody said.
Yeah. Twitter has not become a platform for listening whatsoever. It's a platform for shouting my opinion as loud and as indignantly as, who's ever the biggest gorilla pounding on their chest. That's how I feel. Like, it's become animalistic in a way of like, who can be the loudest, the crudest, the rudest, just, to inflict mental and emotional pain on people. There's so many great things about technology, but there's also the ability to hide behind your computer and not see the effects, and how much suicide rates have gone up with young teens. What's happening there because of the bullying and the filters and the likes and it's just like, I definitely applaud technology and the advancement of everything that's going on with the internet, but it's also got a lot of downside.
It does. I mean, look, everything has a good and bad side, and that's the way I view everything. I mean, everything has a good and a light and a dark, let's say, because it's used for a lot of good, of connecting with people, making friends, charity causes, standing up, speaking out on things, getting people involved. And I always tell people when I laugh, I said, hell, half my advocates for BKO came from social media and me reaching out to them.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, but it's also toxic and hateful and mean at the same time. And it's just getting worse. It's not getting better, especially now. But I know so many people that have completely left Twitter and they kind of just stick to Instagram. And I was like, some people that I knew, and I was like, where did they go? And then I'm like, I found them like on Instagram like a year later when I'm like, oh, they've been on Instagram this whole time because like they just couldn't do Twitter anymore. Some of them deleted, but some of them just left their, like you said, you left yours up and it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
But so many people left because they were just like, you can't say anything, or they found things really inappropriate or creepy, or people were saying things that they just didn't like, and they were like, this is just too much for me.
Yeah.
You know, I know so many people that say, like, why do you even go on it? Why don't you stay away from it? Like, because it is good for things. But I don't go on it personally as much as I used to, even for BKO. Like, I go on the timeline once in a while, I do little things, and I go right off. I said, there are very few times that I will even scroll through my timeline so much because of all the nonsense that you see. It's like you're getting, I don't know if you saw The Social Dilemma on Netflix. We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much information going in your head that it's just like you feel like you're being run by machines. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a scary thing. It was disturbing, but at the same time, it's like it's good because we're aware of it, and being aware of it, I think, is like a number one thing to have that. Well, I'm aware of what they're doing. I'm aware of what's going on. So
I've definitely been trying to like make a conscious choice that if right now I'm staying with my parents, for we can get into that later. But you know, I'm staying with them, and you know, we'll watch a movie or watch a show, and you know, in the beginning, I was scrolling through my phone and blah blah blah, instead of just being like, oh, I'm here, I'm present, I'm conscious of what's going on. And I think that's so easy. And I've always said, if I'm fortunate to have children someday, that they're getting a beeper. You're getting a beeper until
oh, I used to have a beeper.
until you can start driving, you're gonna get a beeper, or you can have a phone, but it's not gonna have, it's just gonna be for calling and texting, and that's it.
Not a smartphone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that I might not have the best relationship with my children for a while, but I just I don't know. I grew up at the cusp of when like AIM was happening, but my younger sister was involved with it, and so I would always be like, why don't you just call your friends? Why are you I don't understand this, like chatting online business, chat rooms and all. So I missed that, and so I and I'm kind of grateful for it, but I'm also super not tech savvy. Like I'm technologically impaired because of it. But and that's also my own doing.
You did pretty good with this because there's a lot of people that when they first did this, when the pandemic started, and at the beginning we kind of went a little bit off script, and we were like, okay, so we have our bullying chats, but we're like, you know what, we want to help people during this pandemic. We get their mind things. We want to help them escape. We want to make them laugh. So we basically just got on here, like we were all hanging out. We had drinks. We were like, if you're of age, you can have a drink. Come join us. And I would bring on the advocates. We would have so much fun. We talk, we laugh, we talk about, we talked about COVID, we talked about things, but we pretty much here just to get people's minds off of it. So we weren't really talking about like, what we normally, like what we're doing now. And I just recently, maybe about a month ago, a month and a half, maybe something like that, or 2 months, it was like, okay, I'm gonna get back to like our bullying show now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did it for like months, and it was like every week for months. We just had somebody on, and it was great though because it helped so many people,
Of course,
including myself.
yeah. Yeah. I've definitely done, like the quarantini with friends, the 5 o'clock happy hour. And, that's just like you, it's tapered off because, in the beginning, you're still like passionate and, just kind of yearning for this like social connection that you're missing out with people. But you know, I don't know, the world's on fire now, so I think we got to get back to work.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of people. I know personally a lot of people that are finally going back to work with their shows. And you know, everybody's trying to get back. You know, as far as your profession, people are trying. I think things
Yeah.
are kind of getting back. You know, I mean, carefully and very like, you know, masks and all that stuff. But they are slowly getting back because otherwise shows because you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's a, I just found out, I think it was today that the article came out. I'm pretty sure it's today that theaters in New York are still going to stay closed until June of next year. And I was supposed to start another play this summer. So we'll see thus the reason that I'm here with my parents. I've been in New York and I did a show off Broadway. I was supposed to start another play.
Oh, you're in New York. I didn't even know you were in New
No,
York.
I'm in Ohio right now. I'm in Ohio
Okay.
with, you know, the parentals who are kind enough to let me crash with them because my lease was up in June.
Yeah.
And there's no work, so there was no point. So I might as well, you know, came home, bought a car, you know, just have been trying to do things. Wrote 2 sketches, shot them via Vimeo. Not Vimeo. Is it Vimeo? No, Zoom.
Zoom.
As you can tell, I'm very, very good with technology.
Okay.
And you know, so I, you know, trying to like stay creative and not have a reason to get out of my pajamas. Those are my dad just got home. The dogs are going nuts. It's a good cacophony of sounds here. But I feel really fortunate because I know so many of my friends, you know, are living with their parents as well right now. You know, it's not something like at 37 years old, I'm like, I take pride in this. It's like, this is what it is. And you have to keep moving forward. And, you know, I have to give a big shout out to Cameo because I've been doing a lot of cameos, but they've been really great with partnering at the beginning for pandemic relief. Like I was able to donate to No Kids Hungry. I've been able to donate to, they did Pride Month, and I was able to donate to a really great foundation called Glisten. They've done Baby to Baby. So that, I think, I'm really proud to like partner with them and do cameos. And this week we were, all of my proceeds are going to Rock the Vote.
Oh, great. Yeah, a lot of people are using Cameo for that. I have one of my, you know, one of my advocates, our friend here, Sean McGuire, he was doing it for the campaign for Biden and Harris campaign. He was doing Cameo for a limited time where the money was going toward the campaign.
Yeah.
And we always support with, you know, what all you guys do. So like we'll try to share things in our stories if we know that they're doing it, or I'll repost it, or I'll donate, you know, on behalf of BKO. We donated got it for someone that couldn't afford it, or international, like when it's something for the vote, when it's something for a US election, people internationally can't participate. So I was also helping people like, oh, you know, if you want to, they were like, if I send you money, can you do it? I'm like, absolutely. You know, I can't promise how it's going to work, but I'll do it. You know, so I think that, you know, there's so many, like I said, there's a lot of beautiful things. There's a lot of coming together. There's a lot of people, but you know, I did this big kind, you know, be kind, love big challenge because I feel like we need to see more humanity and we need to like visualize it, like, because I think that we're getting so bogged down in anger and negativity and bullying and hate that we're not seeing any of that stuff. So it's like, I'm going to do this and I don't care if it goes viral or not. That's not the point. The point is, I mean, I did ask some advocates to get involved and they posted and they used the hashtag and I said, just share anything. I mean, it could be a quote. I don't care if it's a picture of your kids. Like, just share something that's positive, loving, humanity. Like, I've been sharing a bunch of videos. I mean, you've seen many of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I told anybody, like, you know, just get anybody you want involved. Tell them what, you know, it's real simple to do. It's the hashtag, tag us, just shit. I mean, I want to see some beautiful things in our timelines. I feel like, I know a lot of people kept coming to me and saying to me that they just feel like all they see is dark, like just a lot of darkness. And they just like, I feel, they feel like they're kind of like drowning. And I just said, like, you know, I kind of felt the same way. Like you I have so much anxiety and anxious just to go online, and it's a horrible feeling because you sometimes want to go on to escape, and it is good for that, but you're not escaping anything if you're just going on and seeing all the same stuff, and it's like, wow. So I think that and what bothered me too, and you brought it up earlier, is that like Suicide Prevention Month was in September. Bullying Prevention Month is now. Like these things are getting thrown to the side. I understand there's important things going on. I get that. But
Sure.
we also have to recognize that like life didn't stop. There's still all these other things that exist, and those conversations can't stop happening. Because
Right.
otherwise those causes are going to fall apart and blow up in our faces because like we're not paying attention to them.
There's space for both. Just like, I'm incredibly grateful what's for the roof over my head and that I have parents that I can lean on, but I can also be anxious and devastated. It's not one or the other. There's room for all of those feelings. It's just about making space for it. And also, there's room to talk about the election and what's going on with that, but there's also, the bullying for October. There's also breast cancer awareness. It's like,
There's in October.
yeah, October.
Depression, mental health. Then we have, Black Lives Matter, and it's like there's so many things. But October is just like filled with awareness. That's like the biggest month I think in all 12 months of like just everything is jammed into October.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna try to cover all of this because but
it's hard.
It is.
But right, it's important. It's important to be able to kind of continue to like stay on the task of bringing awareness to different causes, and then also bringing light to people's lives, and then also being an advocate.
Right.
It's not easy. Like I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not pulling my weight in some way. So I think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is incredible, and I appreciate being here with you today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing for me, for you, to you. I always appreciate anybody, when they're usually everybody's, more than happy to come on, but I always appreciate it and I'm grateful for it because these conversations are important. And, I love to get different diverse perspectives and talk about different areas of bullying and hate and different things because we also obviously, like I said, we encompass health, suicide prevention, domestic violence, and that's domestic violence is this month. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, is there anything that is not in October? Because I have to try to touch base on like all these things, but within these conversations it all comes up. So it's all. And then we could do some postings on it. We've done posting. We did the domestic violence post, a graphic. We've talked about it. We'll post some. We partner with Face Forward LA that's in California, so we sometimes will repost their stuff as well, share their stuff. So it's like I kind of feel like, okay, well, I'm gonna just repost their stuff because like, it's just so much, and it's like, how are you like you're trying to cover it all? And I have a great team behind me, but it's very hard to get like all these. Okay, let's get all the graphics out. Let's get all the statistics. I don't want to just read statistics. Anybody could do that. We could go on Google and read statistics. Nobody wants to just listen to somebody reading statistics. I don't want to listen to somebody reading statistics. I can be like, I can go look that up myself, but thank you. Like we want to raise awareness and have conversations and talk about it. And, we do fundraisers and raise money too. And we always ask people, which, we will ask you in the future too. But we always we do celebrity calls, and they all obviously all go through me, and they're all controlled where nobody has information, but and they're very safe the way we do them on Zoom or cell. But we auction those off, and then sometimes I also have items that people give me and I auction off that are signed and autographed or special things. But we do that, and we raise money for various different charities, and we just did the LGBT San Diego, so it helped them a lot. We raised a very decent amount of money for them.
Frozen. What's going on?
Hold on. Let's go. What happened here? Oh, is it back? Is it working?
Oh, we're good.
Is it good? Okay, we're good. All right. I don't know.
I
It was it's Instagram.
yeah. I don't know. It'd be the internet.
Let me see.
Can you see me?
I can see you. I just have like you have a circle on your face that's going like this, and I can hear you, but it was going in and now I can see you and you're
Okay.
moving.
Okay. I am in a very rural part of Ohio, so
I'm in the woods.
I am in the woods. I really am. I'm in the
I'm in
woods.
the woods doing a live.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you know, in all to be perfectly transparent, because we just talked about suicide prevention. Um, the past 6 weeks, I have decided to go on Prozac, and just because every, I think people forget that the brain is an organ that can get sick just like any other organ, and then can need medication, and that those organs change over time. And I've always been like a very happy extrovert, introvert, you know, like, but mostly just a people pleaser, wanting to make people laugh. And I feel over the last couple of years, partly because of not working maybe as much as I would like to, medicating with food and alcohol, and then going with the pandemic, I was just to the point, and to be honest, even though it's not fun, but I didn't want to get out of bed. There were days where I was like, what's the point? I don't have a job. There's no jobs to be had. I'm 37. I have to stay with my parents. Like, you know, and it spiraled. And luckily, I had started going to therapy in New York, which I can't say enough. Everybody should try therapy. Everybody.
Absolutely. Those stigmas need to be broken now.
Yeah.
Mental health is a massive pandemic within this pandemic right now.
Absolutely. And so I talked to my parents instead of just like kind of wallowing in it and feeling like, well, there's nothing to be done. I just have to will myself to get out of bed. I have to force myself to write. I have to force myself to, you know, to stay sober, because you have to get your shit together and you can be better than this. And then I was like, no, maybe my brain chemistry has changed. Maybe I need something that will help me. And, you know, I started Prozac 6 weeks ago, and it took a while. And I started to feel like, oh, okay, I want to get out of bed. I want to make my bed. I want to
they take like 4 to 6 weeks to actually work. Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm now on week 7, and I'm experiencing side effects. Like the last 2 weeks have been really bad. I've had really awful headaches and like nausea and some like jitters. So I might have to change.
Yeah.
You know, find a different one, because everybody's different. But I just feel like it was important to say this out loud, and to whoever is watching, that like your brain's an organ that can get sick too. And, you know, sometimes we need a little extra help when it comes to that. And there is no shame in the game. And it is always better to talk to somebody than to things in, you know. And I know it's hard because so many people have lost their health insurance right now. As easy to find a therapist or a counselor that's affordable or in your network or whatever it is. But, you know, there's also a lot of groups, you know, whether it's Al-Anon or places that you can go to and lean on people.
Yeah, I think that I helped somebody find some things that were like in New York, because the person came to me and they're like, there's somebody in New York and I don't know. And I'm like, well, there's nonprofits. I said, there's the government help. Supposedly that they have that. I said, I don't know how wonderful it is. I said, but, you know, and I appreciate it. And I think that was awesome of you to say that. I think it's important that we talk about that, because there's so much shame and stigma surrounding that. And I'm going to add to that and tell you, like, you know, and I don't know how, I don't really think I've talked about it that much, but I myself hit a wall. Like, I have anxiety disorder and panic disorder since I was like 15 years old. And mild depression goes hand in hand with that. I mean, absolutely automatic. But, you know, I had not been really, really bad. I was on and off medications when I was younger. And then finally I just was like, I'm just going to take something for anxiety and take myself off all this other crap that they put me on. Like, not all. I mean, it wasn't like it was a ton. It was like for anxiety and depression.
Sure.
It just made me feel like a zombie. I didn't like the way I felt, and I was going to feel it was myself. So I was like, you know what? At one point, I was still married, and I was like, at one point, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to take myself off. And I was fine, and I was doing really, really, really well until 2020. And I hit a massive wall because it was just one kick in the face after the other. And usually helping people, giving back and doing all that stuff gets me through it, but it was not this time. It was just, I had a lot of serious medical stuff. I almost died. That happened. Then, you know, it was just one thing after the other. And I was kind of finally like, oh my God, I can't wait to get into 2020. It's going to be better. Things are going to get better. Boom, pandemic. Then I lost my career because I got laid off because of the pandemic. And then, then I had medical issues arising again. And then like my baby girl Bella died, and I had to put her down, and I had to let her go. And that was like me jump. That was like I just fell right off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to use, I quit smoking because of the pulmonary embolism that I had the year before. So I was like, smoking I can't do. I wasn't drinking because of the thinners, and I was like, I don't, and the stuff that I was like, I don't know if I can drink. And I didn't really want to. I in the past used drinking to numb myself and get through things when I was younger. I didn't really want to go in that. When you have alcoholics in your family, like, you don't want to go down that path. So it's like,
Sure.
I was like, I'm gonna stop. I did that for too many years. I don't want to use that. I want to find, like, even if I'm like, but I was like you. There were days where I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't want to. There was a point where I was sick and I was stressed and I was a mess. Even people were telling me that I was helping me, and I was working, they were great friends. They helped me so much and kicked me in the ass, with some things, but like, I just was not sounding good, and they all saw that, and they were concerned. And I also had some medical things arising as well. And, the medical things I had already going on, and then also the added stress, my anxiety just went through the roof, and I had to go back into therapy. I had not been in therapy, and I can't even tell you how many years. Back in therapy and back on some medications because I didn't have a choice. I was like, I have to balance myself out, and then I'll go back to them later on. But if I don't balance myself out with the anxiety and the depression, like, I'm just gonna spiral out of control. So my friend was like, you need to do this. Like, don't feel bad or ashamed, right? Like, you need to do it because you're at a point where it's like everything, like, I mean, I have an itch. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I have to go to the ER. I'm dying. Like, the anxiety was going into like hypochondriac stuff. Like, even though I had real medical things like that were traumatizing, it made it worse when I got like you're super aware of your body when you're full of anxiety. Like, you're hyper aware when you're not doing anything and you're not busy. So it was just way too many things. So I absolutely feel you there. And it's like, I'm 41 years old. So it's like, when you're older and these things happen, you're just kind of like, I'm 41 and everything was great and everything fell apart. I was
Yeah.
So
it was definitely like a slow burn for me. And I have to, be honest, like, alcohol is my self-medication of choice for sure.
It was mine for a long time too.
And that was another reason that I wanted to go on Prozac, was because I started to feel better. Uh-oh, am I frozen again?
Yeah.
If I started to feel better.
Wait, I heard you.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Here we go.
But yeah, I mean, I was definitely, and I don't want to. The pandemic just kind of like just multiplied it, but the amount of anxiety. I mean, there's always going to be anxiety.
Absolutely.
For everybody, but in my profession, and then, because you're waiting for an audition. Like, yes, I've been trying to create my own content, but you're also waiting for somebody to give you like the green light, like, hey, we got this, so work on it. And then you still might not get it. But so there's and I don't mind that. I don't want to be like, oh, woe is me. No, I chose this profession. I chose to do this job. I love doing this job, but there are also shitty aspects of this job.
Oh,
And,
no.
you know, for everybody, in any occupation, I'm not special, but, you know, it slowly kind of crept in, um, into the point where you're like, you don't notice how much you're drinking until somebody's like, did you just drink that whole bottle of wine by yourself? And you're like, I guess I did. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not funny.
Been there.
Let's not make a joke about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I deflect with humor. So,
Yeah, I
you know,
used to do the same thing.
that was another reason why I was like, you know, I should try something. I'll try Prozac and then maybe Zoloft or Wellbutrin or, you know, whatever it is, to see if I can start feeling better, so that I don't have to self-medicate.
Yeah, I've had Zoloft. They never gave me Prozac. I've tried Zoloft when I was younger, Effexor. It's antidepressants. There was different ones that they had put me on because, you know, some work for others and sometimes they don't work for another person. There was one I remember when I was really younger. They gave me, I felt like a lunatic. I was like, I don't want this. Like, take me off of it. But, you know, my anxiety was so bad and I just didn't even care what anybody was going to think, like, oh, you're crazy. And I was like, why? You know how many, like, if you look up anxiety disorder, it's like over 50% of Americans have an actual disorder of anxiety. You know, we all have anxiety and much like yourself. And I'm going to say, you know, and I've had this conversation with other people. I'm a people pleaser. I always have been. And I know why I'm a people pleaser because it stems from my past. And I think there's always a reason why we people please, and we kind of have to find the root of why we're like that. Like you, had your whole story of like your bullying, your background, and how you became a people pleaser. So you're aware. You're aware of why you're a people pleaser, and I think that's a very big part of the fight right there. Because I'm aware of why I am. I know damn well why I do it. And it's not a bad trait because, I mean, it's not, I don't want to make it sound like a horrible characteristic because we want to make people happy.
Sure.
We want to help, we want to give.
Yeah.
But it's not good when we're on fire on the back burner because we're not self-caring and self-loving and we're, you know, like you said, self-medicating or falling apart. Like, I mean, I've gone to some horrendously dark places over the years where, and even drinking would make it worse because I'd be like, then I'd be depressed, then I would be like falling apart.
Well, yeah,
and
like, it takes all of your serotonin away, and you know it depletes all of your levels. So the next day you feel worse than you did the day before, and it's a merry-go-round of like trying to make yourself feel better, but really it's just a detriment. And I still struggle with it. I still struggle with my alcohol intake. You know, I'm always better when I'm working because I have, you know, you have a reason to get up and to you know, stay focused. And
distractions,
you know, right now is kind of like, you know, like whatever, but you know, I only have this one body and I should be taking care of it. And you know, but it's still, you know, if I'm honest, it's still a roller coaster, you know?
Yeah, it's always good. I think it's always gonna be when we have those issues to where we're using things to, whether somebody wants to label or not, because we have two addiction specialists here that we work with, Jennifer Jimenez and her husband Tim Ryan, and you know, they're both been in recovery for years, alcohol and drugs, and we've had them on, and they're good friends of mine as well. And you know, we had those conversations because during the pandemic there's been overdosing and people are just drinking like so much because like it's like, hey, it's like party, like, you know, we're bored, there's nothing to do, we don't have to get up for work, we don't have to do anything, so it's like, let's just drink. And I'm like, you know, I said I was somewhat proud of myself that I did not fall into that, because I usually in the past would have been like, woohoo, just gonna drink and I'm not gonna give a crap. But you know, because of the medical stuff, that kind of stopped me and halted me. And it kind of made me realize that, like, I don't care and I don't think I miss it. I do sometimes, like, you know, but it's not that I can't drink. It's just that you have to learn how, you know what it is? It's like when people drink to self-medicate, they can numb themselves with the things that they're going through. You just have to, like, unless you feel like, unless a person feels they're actually an alcoholic, and they have to stop altogether. Like, sometimes it's just a balance of, I'm not going to drink when I'm depressed and stressed. I just need to learn how to drink like a regular person.
Right.
And, everybody labels alcohol, and it's like, okay, but everybody is not an alcoholic. There's like, when I was younger, everybody my age, we all drank, and nobody was like, oh, you're an alcoholic because you're partying. But I was drinking for the wrong reasons, and I would overdo it. I would overdo it to the point where I was a mess, and then I would be like, I was like, oh, I don't show my emotions in front of people. I would be like, blah, I'd be like hysterical. I'd be a mess. I'd be angry. Emotions would come out.
I'm an emotional drunk. I'm definitely an emotional drunk.
I'd either be the life of the party or a hot mess. That's what
the life of the party. Somebody gives up, and then it goes.
Yeah. That's exactly it. It was always like, I'm fine until you give me something specific, like liquor or wine, and then it's like, whoop, there it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Wine hits me hard for some reason.
I think also, like, growing up, alcohol is a big part of like high school and college experience.
Yeah.
And it's a way to like loosen up, feel, and for me that that feeling kind of like continued. It's like, oh, now I can be like fun and for everybody, and I'm not worried about what everybody's thinking about me and how like judging. You like lose those inhibitions, but and then when I went out to LA, I was strict. I was so like I would never have a glass of wine or anything if I had an audition the next day, let alone if I was shooting the next day. Oh God, and I was so regimented. I was just on my 1,200 calorie a day diet, which is horrible, and just. But I mean, I came there with a purpose, and so that's what I came to do. And but when I got got some money, and like things were making, and then I was like, well, now it's my time. And then when Hersey was over, then I really started down the slope when I didn't have a job, because I was just I still have issues with feeling like I've failed in my career, or have let my parents down in some way, and so there's those feelings of guilt. I don't know if they're Catholic guilt or just regular guilt, but all of those things contribute to your mental well-being. And if I do believe, and I've really tried to start implementing this in my life, is having positive affirmations and mantras, because the more you tear yourself down and be like, well, that was stupid. That was a stupid decision. Why'd you do that? Why are you so dumb? Why, like you constantly
self-bullying.
Yeah. And self-loathing, self-bullying. Yes. You just get into this horrible, merry-go-round, and you're not going to be able to get yourself out unless you have really observant, supportive friends and family, or you start going to therapy. It's hard to pull yourself out of like a negative spiral.
It really
and
is.
I'm the first one to say, like, I am no stranger to it.
And I think that's great, and I think it's beautiful that you're able to open up and get it out. I think it's also healing and releasing, because I used to push everything down inside, and it was only the past couple of years that people kept going like, what is your story? And I was like, I kind of can't keep asking people their stories if I'm not willing to share mine. And I was like, it kind of makes sense. But it was always so hard for me because I'm Italian. I grew up in a specific type, around specific people and culture in New York. I'm a New Yorker, so it's like tough. Put some dirt in it, and I was always the black sheep. So I was always different and weird. And it was like, just put some dirt in it and forget about it. You're gonna be fine. Go walk on a treadmill. Go outside for a walk. And I was like, yeah, okay. That'll work. It's like none of those things ever worked for me, so I don't know what the hell, and that was the mentality, because everybody, even the women, it was just like everybody just like beamed through everything, and I was like, yeah, I could do that to a certain extent. And then when I hit a wall, I hit like a thick wall. I don't hit like okay, I'm just gonna bash through it. I just got exhausted, and mentally and emotionally and physically, and the traumatic past, and then other things that would happen in the current. So it's like, I totally get it. And then you're trying to people please at the same time, and you're even doing things for people that did you wrong, and you're being loyal. And, you know, I get it. You kind of just, it's a spiraling thing. And, you know, I didn't really start talking about my story until, like I said, like, you know, the past maybe 2 to 3 years. And I actually put it in a book that an author friend of mine asked me if I would be willing to tell some of my story. And I was like, why not? I revealed something in there that not one person in soul ever even knew. And I was like, I think it's time to just kind of let like a lot of stuff go, because when you hold out that stuff all in, that's what would happen. Like when you drink, for instance, or if whatever somebody chooses to do, then that's when it's like vomit. It's like it's like, just, that's when everything comes out, because you held
Yeah.
everything in. And that's what used to happen
Yeah.
to me. That's exactly
It's
what used
like
to
an
happen to me. And I
exorcism.
was just like, yeah, that's exactly like what it is. I was a hot mess, because I would either be, like you said, the life of the party and laughing and fun and having a great time, or I would be depressed and angry. And I would just walk away, and people were like, you know, and thank God I had really supportive and caring people around me, and I was married at the time and stuff like that. So it was like, I always had somebody keeping an eye on me. But I was wild for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also wild when I got divorced, because I was still in my 20s. I was 26 when I got divorced, because I got married at 20. So I was like, you know, I was still wild. I was like, woohoo! Now I'm divorced, and now I'm just going to go even more. Now I'm depressed, and other things going on, and I'm just going to be worse. It was like, you know, so it was just kind of like, I think when you don't face your realities, and you don't face your past, and you don't face what's going on, and I think this is important for everybody to know. You know, don't have shame in anything. Talk about it. Reach out. Go to therapy. It is very good to do. Sometimes our friends are not enough. We mentor here, but we don't act in any, even though I have a psychology degree, like I don't act in any professional manner like that. So we always tell people mentoring and coaching is great. But if it's not enough, you have to be willing to take that step to say, hey, I'm going to go to therapy. And if you can't find it, I will do everything in my power and use the people that I know and everything, wherever state somebody's in. And I always say, like, we'll figure it out. We'll get you somebody. Yeah. And I'm more than happy to listen to somebody talk for 3 hours if I have to, if it helps them. You know, some people just need to be heard. Some people just need to get something out, and it needs to be with somebody that they don't know that well. And that's kind of like what I like in my therapy, is talking to someone I don't really know. So when I walk out of there, I kind of feel like, when I used to feel like if I ever went to church, you know, because I also grew up with Italian, it was Catholics, but, you know, I started, when I got older, I kind of went non-denominational Christian, just went to kind of just non-denominational churches. And, you know, it was kind of like how you felt when you came out of there. It was like, you feel like, you know, like you feel like, oh, like you just listened to a bunch of great music, because it was like, you know, it was very different non-denominational churches, because it's like rock and roll music, and they're just very different. It's very upbeat. It's not like, you know, when you're sitting there, you're like,
yeah, are we still doing the gospel, or are we on the sermon yet? Like, I don't even know where we are. Like, I know that I haven't had my cracker and my wine yet, so I don't know. It's all. And I just want to say, I so appreciate everybody's comments.
yes.
And I'm so glad that everyone is, you know, I'm glad that we're having this conversation and sharing, and I appreciate all of the love and the positive affirmations that are coming up. I appreciate you guys. I just want you to know that it's not going unnoticed.
No, it's not. It's just they're so fast sometimes, and sometimes we try to do questions, but I haven't really seen any questions. It's more just like lovely comments. But, you know, we only have about a few minutes anyway, but we will definitely bring Kaitlyn back. You know, we bring people back all the time. You know, we like to have people come on and off. We have people on all the time, you know, more than once, because we talk about different things. But this
anytime.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. I mean,
I've got some free time.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely reach out to you for some things, because we are going to do another fundraiser, one more before the end of the year. And, you know, there's sometimes we do different things and new things. And I'll reach out to you to see if you're interested in doing them. we do so many different things. So, you know, anything that anybody's always willing to do, we always ask them like, hey, you want to do this? If you can't, you don't have time, great. If you know, totally fine. If you can, wonderful. But I think that it was an important conversation. And this is the whole reason why I wanted to have, you know, for Bullying Prevention Month, I just asked a ton of people because we wanted to have so many different conversations about so many different topics. And they all relate to bullying because it's all like things have different names, but there's still a form of bullying. Like a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about is self-bullying, and people don't even realize that that exists. When I first brought that up, people were like, what? Wow, I never even realized. I think I've been doing that. And it's like, oh, I know I did it. I mean, I think, you know, but some of us do it really bad. We do it really bad. And even the addiction specialist that I talked to, that, you know, Jennifer used to do on Dr. Drew, and Tim has a book, and they both are TEDx speakers. And when I mentioned self-bullying, like, you know, addiction being self-bullying, she was like, wow, you know, I never really looked at it like that. And I'm like, yeah, it technically is. I mean, you're technically bullying yourself because it's almost like you feel like you have to be punished, but you want to numb yourself to feel good. And then you feel horrible, and then you just keep beating yourself up, but I'm stupid, oh, I did this, so that, well, let's just go do it again now today. And it's like it's like a vicious cycle of kind of beating yourself up. And it's usually stemmed in the focal point is usually something is going on in our lives that we just don't want to deal with.
We like to wrap it up in like nicer words, like, oh, you're a perfectionist, or oh, you're type A personality. Like, that's why you're so hard on yourself, because you're, you know, that can't, having a good work ethic and wanting to, you know, to do well in your life doesn't necessarily need to involve self-loathing and self-bullying, but we like to wrap it up in terms that sound better, like being a perfectionist, you know. And that's just, and that's why it's important to have, you know, these conversations.
Absolutely. And you know, for now, before before Instagram knocks us off, is there anything that you want to like leave the conversation with?
I would just say, you know, if you're not comfortable communicating with your friends or your family, find somebody that you can talk to, reach out to. Your mental health is the best way to maintain your physical health. And I know things seem kind of dark right now, but there is a lot of love in this world, and I'm sharing my love to all of you tonight, and we'll get through this together.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll definitely bring Kaitlyn back, and we'll do more with Kaitlyn, so don't worry. I have like, okay, all right. Somebody's sending me like 1,000 photos while I'm in the middle of doing this, but thank you so much, Kaitlyn, for taking time out of your day, and you know, I appreciate everything that you've talked about is so important, and that you've, you know, opening up and telling your story and sharing a lot of, you know, personal stuff. That's always appreciated, and everybody here, I'm sure, appreciated it. I appreciated it. I was able to relate to a lot of it, and it was great to talk to you and see you again, and I look forward to doing more with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. It was my pleasure to be here with you tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you. Me too. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you soon. All right, Kaitlyn. Thank you. Bye, guys.